Have you ever achieved a dream and thought, is that all there is? Today on Honestly, Dear Listener, we're talking about following the yellow brick road to our dreams, getting pelted with the apples of fame, and what to do when you finally see behind the curtain.
And we're also talking about my recent tubal ligation and why the hell lady parts are so darn shameful.
I'm Emily Hatch.
And I'm Carrie Schaefer. And this is Honestly, Dear Listener. Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you, my friend.
I'm really excited for today. We're going to talk about The Wizard of Oz, and I am wearing green for the occasion, so...
It looks black from here, but I trust you. Yes.
It's green.
I trust you. I saw it on the other screen, and it definitely was green.
I feel the greenness of it all.
Dear listener, if you're not into musicals and you heard how our New Year's one was about musicals, and then we're going to be talking about The Wizard of Oz today, it's okay. We're using The Wizard of Oz as a metaphor for life.
Yes.
So stick with us.
Which is what I think it was truly supposed to be, but I don't think they did a good job at marketing it that way. It was really more about Judy Garland. Anyway, we'll talk about it later, but it's not going to be a nerd musical time. I'm sure you've seen The Wizard of Oz.
I feel like most people have. And if they haven't, it's kind of, even if you're not into musicals, it's one of those films that's in the classic canon of American film. And so I feel like it's worth a watch, even if you're not into musicals.
Especially if you're at a crossroads. Foreshadowing. Okay. Let's talk about not that first. What's some fun stuff you want to talk about today?
Okay, so this morning I was getting ready to hop on here and I was like, what am I going to talk about? Oh, we can talk about something that happened recently. My favorite Christmas present ever, 5 days before Christmas, I got my tubes tied. And then I was like, I know, yay! But then I thought, no, Carrie, you can't talk about that. Like, there was this resistance, to which I went, excuse me, why not? And then I just had this voice in my head that said, because we don't talk about things like that in public, which made me go, okay, why not? And then the only thing I could really come up with was this shame piece. Like it's about female stuff. And so because it's about female stuff, that's shameful or something or weird or I don't know. So I definitely said, I recognize that shame. And that's probably a pretty good indication that it's something that I need to talk about in a public setting because female things are not shameful and our bodies are not shameful. And so here I am about to talk about getting my tubes tied. Okay. It was December 20th and I had decided a while back, we love our kids. Kids are great. Mm-hmm. Awesome. And if you have a bunch of kids, more power to you. That's cool. I only want 2 kids and so does my husband. So we're going to make the 2 kids thing more permanent. And especially now that laws have changed around contraception and other things here in the great state of Tennessee, which is a whole other podcast in and of itself that I won't go into, I felt like it was a good option that I needed to take. So I'm going to preface this by saying I have not had medical surgical trauma. Like I've not had a loved one die in the hospital before. So I just want to say that if you have had medical trauma, and you're like, I can't hang with this, Carrie, I'm out. Cool. I just fast forward a little bit. We'll still be here. So I loved the whole experience because going in for surgery, it's kind of like you're the star of the show. And there are 2 acts. The first act, you are the star. It is job number 1 to make the nurses laugh at me, with me. I'm saying the dumbest crap. Like, at one point they're wheeling me to the operating room and I'm like, is this what it's like on Grey's Anatomy? And somebody down the hall was like, nope. And I'm cracking jokes here. I'm cracking jokes there. Ha, ha, ha. We're so funny. Then they're wheeling me into the operating room, and I'm like, oh, I just feel like I'm just going to be so left out. I just want to be here, but I'm going to be out. And then before I know it, I'm out and I'm waking up. I've missed the whole second act of the show as I'm out the whole time. And I just feel, and remember in earlier episodes where I was like, I just feel like it's so unfair that I can never see my insides.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. The doctor, hearing about my FOMO through the nurse grapevine, was like, she's one of those weirdos that wants to see her insides. I'm into that. So he full on takes pictures of my insides. I know, Emily, I know. Merry Christmas to me.
I mean,
he takes
come on.
pictures of my uterus and my fallopian tubes and my endometriosis, by the way, that they found in there and cleaned up for me, which, hey, 2 for 1.
Thanks so much.
He's so excited. I can tell he's like pumped to present me with this photo paper of all the pictures of my insides. And I tell you, I am jazzed because now I'm adding to my collection. I have colonoscopy pictures and now I have uterus pictures.
Amazing.
So that is my thing. It was great. I came home. I basically napped all day, which is like one of my very favorite things to do. And I turned to my husband at the end of the day and I go, best day ever.
Wow.
I mean, there's the whole pain aspect, but like, whatever. I healed up fine. It's great. And now I've just totally taken myself out of the whole procreating race and it feels great.
No more babies.
No more babies. No more.
I'm so happy for you. And,
Thanks, friend.
To take things to a little serious place, like
Mm-hmm.
not only is like the female things shameful, but old lady female things are even more shameful. And we're not
Yep.
old, but like we are old. If we're past 28, we're like basically dead, right? So it's hard to even talk about hormonal changes or like things like getting your tubes tied. I've had a hysterectomy, still have the ovaries. And yeah, I just think it's even more of a shame thing because it's like, we don't just hide your wrinkles and hide your like old lady shit. We don't want to talk about it. So I'm proud of you. Also, you had your tubes tied on what would have been my 20th wedding anniversary if I had stayed married to my ex-husband that I married when I was 19.
Whoa.
So happy anniversary. Merry
Happy
Christmas.
your ex anniversary to me.
Which is just so fun because we got pregnant on our honeymoon. So like you were getting your tubes tied almost exactly to the day that I conceived my child. So
wow.
We are meant to be friends.
I mean, doesn't that just prove it?
Come on.
Amazing. You're super right. And I think, in the medical community, now that we're almost 40, we are considered like not favorable for childbearing procreation. Like we're definitely considered high risk now.
They call it geriatric, you guys.
Wait, geriatric
If you get pregnant, I forget what the age is. Someone will have to tell us, but if you get pregnant after like 30 something, you are considered geriatric pregnancy. Like, yeah. So and I knew this, and then I went to see actually this last weekend a wonderful show at 54 Below called Mom's Night Out. And it's all moms and expectant moms. And one of the ladies that got up was like, I'm so pleased to announce that I have a geriatric pregnancy. I'm 37. Yeah.
Wow. I think 37. Last time I heard being high risk as a mom, it was 35.
Mm-hmm.
And then they raised it to 37 is my understanding. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. So I think you're right. 37 is when they consider it a geriatric pregnancy.
It's not just high risk.
I hate that
it's
word.
Geriatric, you guys.
Geriatric? My gosh.
I know.
But, or maybe there's nothing wrong with geriatric. Maybe it's that the culture that is age phobic needs to freaking change their programming.
Yeah. The other thing, though, is that hysterectomies are still called hysterectomies. They're not called uterectomies.
Yeah, why is that?
Everything else calls what it is and then says taken out. Hysterectomies are called that, and this is what I've heard from multiple sources. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, because they used to believe that lady parts made ladies crazy, hysterical. Now, look, I'm hysterical, but not that kind. And they didn't take it out of me. I'm still a riot. But yeah, so even saying hysterectomy is pretty fucked up, honestly, because it's saying they took out your hysteria.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, there's a lot that needs to change, y'all. A lot that needs to change. Getting older is not shameful. Lady parts are not shameful. Periods, not shameful. Menopause, not shameful.
Not wanting to have another baby,
not shameful.
Or wanting to. Like, whatever.
Totally.
Not shameful.
None of it. None of it shameful. Internet, I declare it so. Declared.
Gavel.
Thank you. Emily, what about you? What do you want to share with us today?
I want to talk about the analogy that is The Wizard of Oz. One of my very favorite stories ever from performing, I was in The Wizard of Oz with my friend Arn as the Cowardly Lion. I was Glinda, and then the last 2 weeks, the Wicked Witch couldn't do the extension of the run, so I was also the Wicked Witch, which is really weird to yell at yourself. It's like Wizard of Oz Inception. I don't know. I was off stage waiting to come on as Glinda, and my friend Arn, who was so good as the Cowardly Lion, was doing his "What makes an elephant charge his tusk through the misty mist of the dusky dusk?" And then he goes, "What makes a woodchuck?" Now, for those of you who don't know, the next line is, "What makes a muskrat guard his musk?" And it's very dramatic. It's like this big build up. And then it's like, "What makes a muskrat guard his musk?" Well, he's like, through the misty mist of the dusky dusk, "What makes a woodchuck?" And then he just stops and realizes that he doesn't know where woodchuck came from. And he goes, "Chuck his muck."
Oh, shoot.
I'm off stage dying. He does not crack.
Wow.
And everyone on stage was like, it felt like you could have driven a truck through the silence after woodchuck. And then he just says, "Chuck his muck." Courage.
I think I'm going to say that if I ever need to vomit, it's going to be, I got to chuck my muck. It's going to be that.
Yep. That was my favorite moment ever in live theater.
So I was also in the Wizard of Oz separate production from you.
Mm-hmm.
I did it in college and I was a chorus member. So I was a munchkin and we had these little puppets. And then I was also a poppy. And I was an Ozian, like one of the people dressed in green.
Mm-hmm.
And I was an apple. In fact, I was the one that said, "How about them apples?" And then threw my apples at Dorothy. That was fun. So we should get into The Wizard of Oz. I think for our listeners that are not familiar with The Wizard of Oz,
do it.
I think we should maybe do a recap. So Dorothy Gale is this girl that lives in Kansas. It's a black and white film up to a certain point. So the whole time she's in Kansas, she kind of is wanting something more than just her farm life in Kansas. So this tornado comes along, picks up her house, and plops her into the land of Oz, which, by the way, is suddenly in color, which was a huge deal for the 1930s. So she's plopped in the land of Oz, which is on some other kind of plane of existence. She follows the yellow brick road because her whole thing is how do I get back to Kansas? how do I get back to Kansas? So she meets these people along the way, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the Cowardly Lion. And everybody wants something. And all the things that they want are different, but they've all been told, hey, in order to find the things that you're wanting, the best person that could help you find it is the wizard. And so go take this yellow brick road, and the yellow brick road will take you straight to Oz. So they all, follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road. They all make it to Oz. It's this wonderful, sparkly, amazing green city with so much hope and promise, and anything can happen. So then they finally have the meeting with Oz, and it's this big, scary head with fire shooting all around it. And so, okay, so you pick up the story from there because I think this is salient to your point. So they meet the wizard
Um, and the dog gets freaked out and jumps out of
Dorothy's
her
dog.
a Toto, and he runs over to some curtain and pulls it back. And back there is this weird old man who is just like running a machine, and that is him. That is the wizard.
The
All
big
the
head is
fire
actually
and
mhm.
all the production is just him pulling levers, and he's this sad, befuddled old like, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. I'm the great and powerful Oz. They've spent now the entire movie trying to get to this dude and this very special person who can take them home, or get them a heart or a brain, or courage. Dorothy's like, what? This is it? This is all you are? How are you going to get me home? And he's like, I'm also displaced from my home. I rode a hot air balloon here and now I'm stuck. And they all thought that I was some sort of important person because I came here in a hot air balloon. And I don't know either. There's this whole transformation that happens, and she gets home. I feel that it's such a great parallel for creative life. You are wanting to embark on something. You see like that you have to leave where you are somehow to get to what you see, maybe on Instagram, on TikTok, and on the, on TV or whatever, getting to this point. So I've got to do something that's totally different. And then you hear people keep saying things like, well, everything you need to be the artist or whatever is within you. And you're like, okay, bullshit. That's
What does
like,
that
I've been
mean?
here and there's nothing here. So I've got to go on this journey. And you have friends that are also going on that journey with you, and they need things too. And y'all are just trying to make it. That's us right now. Make it through this thing. And you have all these things that come up. Then you get to an event or a person that you've been idolizing from afar, that you've been trying to, once I get this thing, once I get this gig, once I get to this like website or this influencer or this whatever, then I will know how to find this elusive thing that everyone keeps telling me is inside me or whatever. And then you find out that that person, that gig, those whatevers are just an old dude behind a curtain being like, I'm important too. You know what pisses me off though? Like, we're trying so hard on this path and talking about like not letting things stop you. And what's at the end of the path in The Wizard of Oz? Nothing, really. Like, you've tried so hard, and you get to the land of Oz and you go to the wizard, and it's like just a dude behind a curtain. Oh, God. The reason I want to talk about it is just how much this metaphor, I think, works for creatives. Have you ever gotten to the wizard? Have you braved all the things, the slings and arrows, to finally get the gig you wanted or get your art put somewhere? And then you see the wizard and you're like, really? I've been working this hard for this long for that thing. Do you
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about, Carrie?
100%.
What's your
Yes.
what's your wizard?
So, a couple of things. I feel like I learn a lot from other people in a lot of ways, and I've avoided a lot of pitfalls because I'm one of those people that is pretty anxiously based. So I'm like, I'm going to watch everyone else around me and then I'm going to learn from them so I don't fall down that hole. So I write, and I've read a lot of authors who have said, I thought my whole thing was get that book published, get that first book published. And then I have my book publishing party, this huge celebration. I'm so excited. And then I wake up the next day from my book party and I am still the same person. And I thought that when I got there, I will wake up and go, okay, now I'm valid, as evidenced by the fact that I have this book deal. I'm on the New York Times. Even if you're like New York Times #1 best-selling author, you still wake up at a certain point and go, well, now what? Now what do I have to do to prove? Or is this all there is? And it's not to say that publishing books or having an album come out or meeting your heroes is not a big deal. I think it is. But I think maybe it when we say, is that all there is? It's to say, if I'm not happy with myself before all of this, after all of this, I'm still left with me. It's not enough. So when is it enough?
The journey in that is so complex. So we're talking about reaching success in what we've dreamt about. We talk a lot about creatives and like our dreams. And we don't talk a lot about when you get the dream and what that feels like. I think I've had so many, because I'm blessed and I work my ass off, I've had a lot of moments where I'm like, this is a dream of mine. And it looks like an old man behind a curtain, which is what I feel like most of the time.
And it's you've moved there, right? If you want to make it, you moved to New York City and you did that. And now you're rubbing elbows with the very people that you dreamed to rub elbows with your entire life.
And it feels like pretty weird. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, do you know who I talk to on the phone? Like talking to myself. Like, do you know what rooms I'm in? This feels the same, just scarier as everything I've been doing, right? And like, I produced a show. I wrote a show that got produced. I've had some bigger things happen. There was a venue I've always wanted to play. I was there every month for a year. Okay. It's just an old man behind a curtain. And you know what the piece that I think is interesting, and I don't know if you guys relate to this, but this is big for me. Finding out that every wizard has a man behind the curtain is really helpful, but I also went to this weird shame place in my mind. Like, you're so dumb for thinking that this was a big deal or that you would feel something different than you're feeling now. Like, I've had to get through that a few times. Like, you knew there's a man behind the curtain. What's the matter with you? And like, I'm sure Dorothy, that moment of like anger at the dude that's making this look like a big deal, but also this like, oh my God, we have gone through so much and this is all it is. What's going to happen now? And kind of dealing with that weird little shame spike every time you see behind the curtain, and that's not to say that I've arrived, but I think the main thing here is that we don't arrive. Like, every destination is just a stop to the next destination. And I think
Mm.
that's kind of disappointing, you
Mm.
know, but also exciting.
I think it's not that getting to where you want to be is not cool, but I think if we're expecting that to fill holes in ourselves, holes where we need to getting them filled means, finding worth and finding identity. If we're expecting these cool things to fill us up in those places that are not meant to be filled by events, people, cool things that we do, anything that we do, I think we're
Achievements.
going to be
Okay.
disappointed. Achievements. I think we're going to be disappointed. But instead, filling that place with something that was designed, I think, to bring us joy and to help us find our identity and our worth. So if it's not our achievements, then if it's not the cool things that we do or the people we meet or people that we know, what is it?
Yeah. Which brings us to the end of the film, where she chants, "There's no place like home," and clicks her heels in her ruby slippers. Glinda tells her how to get back home after she's discovered a lot of stuff about herself on
Mhm.
this journey. She wakes up at home and she's like, "Oh, I had this crazy dream and you were all there and everything has been in my backyard this whole time. And
Yeah.
oh, Auntie M, there's no place like home. Um, what? Like if we keep going with this metaphor, you're like, should I have even left the house? Like, really?
Right.
Like
That's the takeaway.
it's been inside me this whole time. I'm every woman. Thanks, Shaka Khan. It's all in me.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yep.
should I have even left? Because it's all inside me. The journey is really what taught her to value things about herself that she like can use and find peace in and all that. So I guess it's about the freaking journey. What is this? Like, what's your take on this ending? Because to me, I get like righteously angry about it. I'm like, oh my God, really? Uh no wizard?
Okay, you asked the question, should I have ever left? And even because I'm just going to end up back at the same place that I was at the very freaking beginning, right? But I argue that yes, you had to leave in order to come back, and you are changed in that process of going out and searching for that thing that will fill you. And you come back not the same, changed, and the change is the lens through which you see yourself.
And learning to appreciate what you have and who you
That's
are.
right. Yes. And one part of the journey is saying, are you serious? That was the thing that I was missing. I'm angry about it, which is totally realistic. I get being like, really? I'm the punchline? I'm the I'm the destination? What? But I think at some point we realize that we already had everything we needed already there. We had to go out in the journey, all the self-loathing, all of the trying to fill the void, trying to fill that hole, all of the times we've cried and been like, why can't I just be something that I'm not? Why can't I be a lion or a tin man or a scarecrow or whatever it is? Why do I have to be Dorothy? I don't want to be her. I don't even like her.
Mm.
We have to go through that to realize that the home that we're coming home to is ourselves. We are the home. And relationship with ourselves is the only thing that can fill the hole that we're searching so desperately to fill. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And recently, what really brought it up for me was like, for some reason, I thought about it. I don't know why. And I'm like, all I want to do is lay down. I just want to lay down and I want to go to sleep. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the poppy field. Like, part of this journey, this is so woo woo, but like, I'm tired. And I've been like walking and helping people and like dodging apples and like being scared. And there's this like field of like, oh, this is nice. Like, depression seems like a really fun little spot. I could just lay here and these flowers in my bed and just relax. I don't need to meet the wizard. I'm fine. I don't need to go there,
The
right?
poppy field is a metaphor for depression?
That's what I feel like right now.
Mind blown. Mind blown. Of course it is.
Or, this is weird, drugs and alcohol. I honestly feel like because poppies are heroin, right? Like
Yep.
their opium is in poppies.
Sure.
And in The Wiz, by the way, which is
Which is
my
which is
very
what?
favorite version of the story of The Wizard of Oz. The Wiz is the soul version of this story. Yeah, I mean, Diana in the movie, it was on Broadway first, but in the movie, it's Diana Ross plays Dorothy, Michael Jackson's the Scarecrow, Nipsey Russell is the Tin Man. The poppies are hookers. And there's this like whole flower that they come dancing out of. And it's like all this smoke is coming out of the flower. And everyone's like, ooh. And the poppies are like, hey, sexy. So, like, this whole thing is that they are like drugs, alcohol, sex version. And that's who the poppies are. I think the poppies can be substance abuse. I think they could be depression. Whatever it takes to kind of drag you down and convince you that this is going to ease the journey. And I truly think, you guys, like, I'm no expert on this, but that a lot of the reason that the people in the music industry have substance abuse issues and alcohol abuse issues and like disappear for forever is because of this thing. Like, all of us getting what we want and then realizing that it doesn't make us feel any better, and then needing something to like ease the pain of that. You know what I mean? Like, the numbing
Yep.
it, because some of our most talented folks got it real quick.
Yep.
And then they were like, it's this fucking old man behind the curtain.
Ugh.
I'm out. Back to the poppies.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. No, that makes so much sense. And the way that, people, celebrities talk about fame is just, I mean, that would be so terrible to feel like you couldn't go anywhere or do anything because you're just going to get mown over by people. So it makes so much sense.
They're
that
your
they'd be like,
apples.
I'm out. Yeah.
Fans and
I like
paparazzi
them
are your
apples.
trees that are
Yep.
just following you around, throwing shit at you.
No, that makes total sense.
It's almost like they a lot of celebrities that we think are like, oh, you're so lucky, overnight success. Like, if you watch any of the documentaries, they're lonely and somewhat unhappy people.
Yep.
Who must have seen The Wizard first, because they got the overnight success, and then they're just like stuck in Oz.
Now what?
You know, if they don't figure it out.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think one of my big takeaways in all of this is if you are unhappy with yourself on the way to getting what you want or before getting what you want, you're not going to be happy with yourself after you get what you want. So why not work on your relationship with yourself, build a safe, kind friendship environment inside with yourself, get that figured out first. That's the meat and potatoes. Everything else on top is just cherries. Not that you would put those two things together, but
hey, you no judgment. You do you.
You get what I mean though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Another thing that is kind of cool to know is that you're not alone in that. That
Mhm.
figuring you out and figuring out that you're sad and weird about like this journey and feeling like you just want to lay down, feeling like you're sick of helping everybody else.
Mhm.
Those feelings are human feelings that everyone is going through. And you know what? A lot of us don't have the luxury of figuring out what we need before we are on this journey, right?
Yep.
Like Dorothy didn't. She had to get all the way through this shit, get disappointed, and then figure out, oh, I've got to go home to myself and figure this out.
Mhm.
And you know what? Then I got to go back because there's more over there. And I'm going to have to
Mhm.
walk through these same problems again, but this time I'm going to know what to expect a little bit more. I
Yep.
think we're just going to keep taking these journeys and keep finding what the things within ourselves that need strengthening. All of us. You're not bad for not knowing about the wizard. You're not bad for wanting a nap. Like, we just have to figure out how to be gentle
Mhm.
and get to know those things in us that need to grow.
Right. Absolutely. Ugh. Okay, now I want to watch The Wizard of Oz again with this lens on. Because I'm sure there are things all throughout the story that are like mind blowing that I can use right now. No, that's I think I think that your connection to the story arc of The Wizard of Oz and i- it's so profound. And I've heard like a lot of storytelling workshops actually use that as their text to exemplify a character, like every story's character's journey, because
Mm,
it's the perfect metaphor for storytelling.
mhm.
So,
Okay, a very quick note.
yep.
Did you see the thing about how the Barbie movie included a lot of references to The Wizard of Oz? You guys
No.
have to look that up. So
Oh my gosh.
there are a ton of little things, including posters that say The Wizard of Oz on them in the background as she's going through in the first bit, like the first scenes. Um, so really do wonder how much of that, like finding yourself and your worth, was influenced by The Wizard of Oz.
Wow. No, and thinking about the Barbie movie, that she comes to it's basically it's the wizard. It is. It's the same thing because in the end she finds out that everything that she needs is inside. She doesn't need to go outside for. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm going to we'll find the connection between the Barbie movie and the Wizard of Oz and we'll put in the show notes so that you can enjoy it too.
Crazy, huh?
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, this was really fun
This
and
was
good.
really fun. Okay, so dear listener, you can find us on all the socials. We are at Honestly Dear Listener and also our email, honestlydearlistener@gmail.com. And what am I missing?
We have a website where you can download old episodes. And we have a Patreon because we need your help to keep doing what we're doing. This takes some money and time. If you would support us, that would be just excellent because we hope we're supporting you. So tell us more about how we can support you in comments, emails, and then share.
All right, dear listener, we love and appreciate you and have just such a wonderful week. And remember, there's no place like home.